Groups, I think many of you know, has earned a reputation for cutting-edge research on the factors influencing Latino Hispanic caregivers' perceptions of the experience of caregiving for a relative with Alzheimer's disease. She's known nationally and internationally as well. Her nursing career spans more than 25 years, including working as an operating room nurse, teaching university students, and becoming a researcher. Her passion for research was triggered when she started working with Hispanic Latino caregivers and realized the gap in cultural and linguistic needs required to address this growing population. Born in Bogota, Colombia. Oh, we have two folks from Colombia speaking today. That's fabulous. That's neat. And then her research interests include Latino Hispanic caregiving, the concepts of caregiver satisfaction and duty fulfillment, and formulation of culturally informed theory of caregiving. Dr. Flechas is a bilingual and bicultural investigator with special interests in the cultural and linguistic competency of intervention programs for Latinos and Hispanics. Please welcome Dr. Arevalo-Flechas.
Thank you very much, Ron. Thank you, WellMed, for having me here. I'm very, very happy to see lots of familiar faces, caregivers, people who were part of my dissertation study many months ago, people that grew me up in the academic world, and again, WellMed. Jennifer, Debbie, thank you for the invitation. Why am I here today? Because I thought it was very funny that WellMed will put two Colombians with very heavy accents back to back and said, God, they're going to give it to San Antonio. What in the name of God are they thinking? But I said, okay, whatever, fine, we'll be doing the warm-up for our keynote speaker later. So, ladies and gentlemen, I'm really sorry you blame WellMed and whoever organized, because those are some very heavy accents, but by now you may have known that we have something in common with Lily Oaks, and it's a tremendous passion for what we do. I am in a very awkward position because Lily is a very passionate speaker, as you could see. So I will try to keep the tone up for you, Dr. Bryan, with some interaction so that people will be all warmed up by the time that you come on stage. So why is it that I'm interested in this caregiving thing? I came into the world of caregiving through the back door as a research assistant for Dr. Sharon Lewis, the person who is the mastermind and the developer of the stress busting program for family caregivers. She took me under her wing and allowed me to interview caregivers who happened to be bilingual at the end of the program. And I ran into a very surprising situation, and is that these caregivers, every time they were bilingual, they will not answer my questions in English, but rather they will start code switching. Code switching is nothing else than going back and forth between two or more languages. And here in Texas, I don't know, I think Tex-Mex is considered a third language. So some of them will speak in English to me, then they will code switch to Spanish, and then I enriched my vocabulary with those interviews because I had to learn a lot of Tex-Mex to be able to interpret. The more and more I got to know these caregivers and some of their journals and the notes and so many things that Dr. Lewis allowed me to have access to, the more I realized the tremendous gap in how people were experiencing and what we were trying to provide. So what you see here is nothing else, it's this part. The program was focused right here. What are the stressors that the caregivers are experiencing? What are some of the strains? What is the illness process? Here is where the program was intervening, and I kept thinking something is seriously missing here. When we look at more formal theory of stress and coping, and we have famous people like Lazarus and Folkman, and they have said, okay, we have stressors, we have the way in which we appraise things, and we're going to have some sort of reactions, but if you really look at the long-term effects, we have been very, very focused on the physiological and the emotional response, and all along, there was a disconnect between classic models of stress and coping and what the caregivers were telling me in Spanish, and how every time that I put them in a bad position asking about the word burden and how difficult the responsibilities were, they will code switch and they will detach themselves from speaking Spanish to me and start speaking English. And in English, they did use the word burden. But if I, by the grace of the Lord, introduce the word carga, oh boy, I had people in tears, I had people very upset. It's just, all those concepts collided. There was definitely a disconnect. So the purpose of my presence here today is to introduce you with a different light of two different ways of looking at caregiving. Taking care of somebody is extremely difficult. It doesn't matter what language they speak, what cultural background they come from, if it is Alzheimer's, if it is Parkinson's, whatever it is. So the demands are the same. The disease process may be the same. But where we come from and the language that we speak as we are growing up, our emotional language plays a tremendous difference in how we approach the business of caregiving. I will not perhaps have the time to show you a 9-minute summary of experiences and some of my research with Alzheimer's caregivers, but the link is there. It's a TEDx. If you Google TEDx San Antonio, Arevalo, all Alzheimer's caregivers are not created equal. You can get to that 9-minute PowerPoint or TEDx presentation October of 2012. Because otherwise, the same thing that happened to Liliana is going to happen to me. We talk too much. See, Colombians are terrible. So I said, you know what? I'm going to skip the video, and I'm just going to give you the link. So what you get today is the long version, all those things that I wanted to say that day on a stage at Trinity University, and people told me, this is a TED event, and TEDx, and you have 10 minutes, so get going. So you get the long version today. Language is a tremendous issue because someone along the line decided to translate the word caregiver to Spanish. The Spanish language is incredibly rich. We do not have a word that translates literally, one word that translates the meaning of the word caregiver. And somebody in their infinite wisdom decided to translate it to cuidador. Well, cuidador is somebody who takes care of things. Cuidador is somebody that takes care of animals. Cuidador is somebody that maybe, your head is going, See, we connected already. So somebody's understanding what I'm saying, So why is it that we're calling people cuidadores in Spanish? I don't have the slightest idea. The fact is sometimes even in English, those of you in the audience know that many people do not see themselves as caregivers. Who are they? And you're going, yes, who are they?
People like their moms and dads and brothers and sisters.
Moms and dads and brothers and sisters. And when you ask people of Hispanic descent and Spanish speakers, they're going to say that with a lot of pride, okay? Not just, people with a lot of pride. I am the husband, I am the son, I am the spouse, whatever it is, but not cuidadores. Until 2012, the word cuidador was in the Spanish dictionary, just like you see it here on the screen. But if you guys watch the news, there were some people from the Royal Academy of the Spanish language who in October 14 went to the king and the queen in Spain and gave them the brand new version of the Spanish dictionary. And now the word cuidador has a little thing on the side that says used sometimes as a noun. So my feeling is that we're going to end up introducing it. I hate it. I really hate the idea, but I think it's filtering. Just like the word stress became estrés. Stress became estrés, okay? And now we have estrés in español. And I think it's taking something like 20, 25 years, you know? So maybe we're going to see Google in the Spanish dictionary too. And texting, because I think we have chatting and cantinfladas already, so maybe we'll see that, okay? We're going to see it. I would like to bet some money. But the word cuidador was not my only problem. Worse than that was the translation that somebody did of burden to carga. Because carga is nothing else than something very negative. Carga is the equivalent of cargo, what you put in the back of a mule, what you throw in the back of the pickup. So what is it that for the last 40 plus years in research, when we've been asking about burden and carga to people of Hispanic descent have we been measuring? Because we have all these wonderful programs to support caregivers. We bring them in, we have all these psychoeducational interventions in the hopes that they will gain some coping mechanisms, that they will learn to deal a lot better with the stress, but we measure burden at the beginning of the intervention and at the end of the program. So what is it that we have been measuring? I don't have the slightest idea because the concept does not exist in my language and it does not exist in my culture. So that's the disconnect that I've been trying to look at. My window into the world of caregiving came from watching and participating the vast majority of the part last distance in the care of my grandparents. No one told me that when I grew up or as an adult, I had to take care of my parents or my older adults. It's something that gets role model. It's something that is lived on a daily basis. No one is going to teach you in the Hispanic culture that you will become a caregiver. What do we see? When I meet somebody, how much do I know about that person? All I see are their behaviors. But each person is truly an iceberg. Always is this very little thing. The part below the water, the level of the water, is just a compounding of who we are, our traditions, the language that we speak, the values, our religious beliefs, spirituality, and how we grew up, and what are the things that have impacted who we have become. So who's my timekeeper? I don't have a timekeeper. And you have a sign that you're going to show me, or you're just going to stand here next and say, sure, next, or what?
I came up there after I gave her 5 minutes.
Okay, so please give me 5, and then I start talking really, really fast. Okay. All right. I am preaching to the choir here. Caregivers. Our silent heroes, our hidden patients, and I really dislike all that terminology because they cannot be silent anymore and they cannot be hidden anymore. They need to come up front. But what is characteristic of them as they assume the role of caring for somebody else? They don't complain. They don't ask for help. It's one of the hardest things. They put the welfare of their loved one first at the expense of their psychological needs, at the expense of their financial and physical needs. It's a very high price that they pay. Let's talk a little bit about these Colombians and Peruvians and Mexicans and all these people that somehow have Hispanic descent and respond to that set of values. And I hope that no one feels offended in the audience today, so I'm going to say it now and then I'll clarify it later. I am not saying that one culture is better than the other. I'm not saying that one set of values is better than the other. My purpose here today is to raise awareness that we behave in different ways because our values are different. It's not that they may be different. They are different. So we cannot treat everybody the same because people that are different. To begin with, I may be Latino, and the way that I approach my non-Hispanic people or patients of European descent is different from the way that I treat them, greet them, anything like that. Thank you. I'll need that prompt. Okay. In Hispanics, why is it that it takes so long for Hispanics to be diagnosed with Alzheimer's or dementia or to do something about it? There is a cultural value called respect. We do not question early enough how come that abuelito or grandpa is confused. We're very quiet about it. We do not want to be disrespectful. Okay? Care in general, and is very marked in Hispanic culture, is the role assumed by the females in general. I'm not saying that there are not wonderful males in the Hispanic culture who assume roles of caring for others, but the vast majority will be females. We are awful. We are absolutely awful and pitiful at asking for help. We do not like to hear that home health services are available. If somebody says there are respite services, it's like, what, respite? It is my responsibility, it is my duty. I mean, I'll give you some of the expressions from some of my research, but it's just not. We have a very hard time accepting that it's time to ask for help. Liliana was talking about the nursing homes. It's almost an impossible conversation. Okay. It's just not part of the culture. Anybody here works in a nursing home? Yes? Out of just an approximate statistic, what is the percentage of Hispanics at your institution versus the percentage of residents that are white, non-Hispanic? 15%? Does that sound odd to you? 15%. Do you know what is the number of Latinos, Hispanics in San Antonio? Are we 15% in this city, people? No. Unofficially, I think we are like 67% or 69, and official is like 67.3 or something like that. What are the numbers? 68%. 68 officially or unofficially? Official, 68%. So why is it, I mean, isn't it common sense that if we are 68% in this community, we should be 68% institutionalized? But it does not happen. It's only 15%. So that thing about institutions is not, we have a very hard time accepting that. Hispanics always look a very personal relationship with their healthcare providers. They're not just the physician out there or the nurse or the social worker. And I'll give you a couple of examples. If I greet somebody here in the audience for a moment, the person say, hi, how are you? And the other one says, fine, thank you, how are you? Have a great day? Have a great day. But if I approach this table over here and I find a Hispanic and say, Terry, how are you? What would you say, Terry? Terry? Hi, Terry. But I know we have a relationship from before, but most likely she's going to say something like, and how are your kids, Lyda? It's very different that, fine, thank you, how are you, have a great day. And the same thing happens when we go and seek physicians. My parents adore Dr. Ian Thompson. Yes, he is one brilliant urologist, a urologist oncology. But I don't think that's the reason, or that because he speaks Spanish, that my parents feel so safe. My parents don't speak English. But they feel very safe when they go and they have an appointment. It's one of those appointments that I don't need to go as a translator or as a cultural broker or as a healthcare system broker. They tell me, we have an appointment with Dr. Thompson. Lyda doesn't need to be there. My parents know the names of Ian Thompson's grandchildren. My mother takes little sacks of Colombian coffee to Dr. Thompson. And then she takes candy. And then Dr. Thompson tells her, don't bring me more candy because my wife is going to get mad. And then Dr. Thompson asks about the grandchildren on the other side. It's like they visit a friend. It's not just the doctor, okay? Other healthcare providers that don't get that, Lyda has to come from Round Rock and navigate the thing because they don't like it, okay? So very personal relationships. So what we see, what I just mentioned to you, is just the behaviors that we see, but they respond to an incredible accumulation here underneath. It's an accumulation over time. This is the part that we don't see, and I think I lost this here. All this part is what we do not see. All we are able to say is, those Hispanics don't like respite. Hispanics, they wait too long to diagnose the people. They take forever. They don't show up on time. Anybody in the audience knows how to say tomorrow in Spanish? Mañana. Are you Spanish speakers? Very few. But you know about mañana. See? Hispanics, but that's the part that we see. That's the only part that we see. So what are we? Are all this addition of values, customs, of traditions, and our language, all those things are really who we are. 90% of who we are, we don't show. We get to see only that 10%. That is the behaviors that we see. So let's look at some of the of the values of a different group of people, and again, and it's sitting up there on the slide, okay, just to make sure that people don't get me wrong here. They are not wrong, and they are not right. It's just like feelings. They are not wrong or right. They are just feelings. Well, same thing with values. That's what you hold dear to your heart. Individualism. Anybody identifies with this? This is one of the reasons why this country is such a superpower. It's about me, about competing, about achievement, wonderful, wonderful qualities. Hard work, action, how much money, more money can I accumulate, and achieving, being very successful. Anything wrong with being successful? Self-reliance and independence. Did I lose? I didn't talk it hard. I think it's the battery. Hello? Okay, we're back. Okay, good. Until the battery disappears again. Okay. So self-reliance and independence. Isn't this what in this country kids are taught? I mean, just the idea behind the kid traveling with his or her own carry-on, okay? You need to learn very quickly to do things for yourself. You graduate from high school, and you are gone. You spread your wings and you fly. You go to college to be independent, to be self-reliant, and we like to think in this society that people are becoming economically, financially independent. Am I exaggerating? Anything wrong with that? No, of course, it's all good things, very good things. When I first came to this country and started So may I have a battery, please, for this thing? I will go through the torture of speaking from here, only for WellMed. I love WellMed. Did you tell? Okay. So as I'm attending nursing classes, and this concept is presented by the faculty about empty nest syndrome. And I sit and I try to pay attention. It's like empty nest syndrome. Okay. So mentally, I had a tree, and I had a nest with no birds. Well, isn't that an empty nest? I had absolutely no cultural or family background to understand what people were trying to convey in terms of developmental psychology at the time, because such thing had never been part of my culture. And it has not been part of my culture because Hispanics respond in a very different way to family structure. Timeliness. We start on time and we finish on time. And you don't want to finish on time? Okay. Very, very important, right? That we start on time and we finish on time. This is part of this culture and how we function here.
Check one, check. Here we are.
Production. Thank you very much. Thank you. So that I can continue to do things on time. Because God forbid we stop at some point in time to create and enjoy and cultivate personal relationships. Okay? Personal relationships are very, very important in other cultures, and Hispanics are one of those people that could care less about in general. Okay. I have to start lecture on time. My students know that it's very normal for me to start lecture at 9:01, but we trade. I finish lecture at 12, and it's 1 p.m., and we're still chit-chatting there, okay? But I know who they are. Okay, so we like to think that we value productivity, that we're able to compete in this society, and we like winning. How many world wars has the United States lost? We have. Well, I'm not so sure. Ron, you had to blow it for me. You couldn't just sit there. World, okay? But let me tell you something. how many countries come to compete in the United States for the World Cup series? I'm waiting. In the World Cup series, and the baseball World Cup series, and the world champions on this, and the world champions of that? Huh? None. None. Oh, no. Soccer is a very different story, and you're talking to a Colombian here, okay? Did you see the performance of Colombia in the last one? Don't go there. Don't go there. Personal space. I love this one, because we define it in such a different way. I could stand right here, and I could get this close, and I'm talking, and I'm perfectly fine, and he's going like, what the heck is she doing to me? Okay? What is this? This country? This is personal space. Okay? For Hispanics? Nah. Right?
Oh, I know.
Right? We done. We connect like that. Personal space is crucial how we use that with our patients of Hispanic descent. Time for yourself, because individualism is so valued. Then we teach you need to take time for yourself, space for yourself, things about yourself, your success, your independence. This is not valued in other cultures. In fact, it's seen as a very negative and selfish thing. Okay, this is your self thing. Okay, so let's talk about Hispanics so that you can start seeing the contrast. And again, of course, I'm going to say that's a wrong set of values, like that's where I come from. But my hope is that I can help you navigate how other people actually see the world, especially as it's going to apply to caregiving. Familism. We do not compete individually. In fact, competition is not very high up there on the list. Clash. What do you mean you don't like to be the first? Achieve, succeed, more money, be the first. Individual, as a person, self-reliant. As long as my family is fine, who cares? And you will find that in many, many families. Okay? Very important to preserve that structure, and something that is agonizing for social workers, for healthcare professionals, is decision-making. You hear Lily Oak say, we have all sorts of conversations, but we continue to delay them and all that. Yes. 5 minutes. 5 minutes. And then I stand up. Finish on time, Lyda. Run for your life now. Okay. So, we need to make a decision about mom or dad. That is not going to happen unless the entire family is involved. So allow yourself some time. I said that we're about personal relationships. So whenever a Hispanic person tells you, hi, how are you? I bet you any money that at least 90% of the time, the person is actually asking how you're doing. It's not, hi, how are you? Fine, thank you, have a great day. Great. No, okay? I am ready, and when I ask you, how are you doing? I want to know. And it's not out of being nosy, it's out of, my values are, I want a personal relationship with you. We're very collectivistic, and that ties into the concept of familism. We try to stay together, and it's very hard for Hispanic families. Because of globalization, jobs, and all that, people are all over the place. So long-distance caregivers in the Hispanic culture face very specific challenges. We don't start on time and we don't finish on time, except today because Ron is going to kick me out of the stage. Okay. Personal space. I already made Dr. Brian very uncomfortable. They're getting really close to him. And you saw it's like we like a lot more closeness, not as much as Chinese people, okay? They made me very uncomfortable in Beijing 3 months ago. I'm thinking like, oh my God, what is going on here in this elevator? And getting off the plane, and it's like, in a pharmacy, and it's like, I'm here, you know, like, don't start going over me, but okay, so not to that degree. But yes, a lot closer than Americans. Marianismo. Sounds like the Virgin Mary, right? But it's not really a religious a religious connotation as much as the emulation of virtues, of sacrificing for others, of abnegation, of humility. Those things are very valued in our culture. And then this is key. And at this step, many people blow it because they think that saying, hola, ¿cómo estás? In the first encounter, they think that's really cute. You just blew it. You don't use tú and estás and that until you know that person, especially if it's an older adult, if it's somebody older than you. Tú is for your very close friends, the estás, very close friends, and children. So older adults are not going to appreciate being addressed like that. So because of all those values, this is how Hispanics see caregiving. It's an opportunity to give back. It's my responsibility, and therefore, they do not like respite because it's my duty and my responsibility. So you have to sell those ideas and reframe them for them. Caregiving is a learned behavior and a tremendous sacrifice. Oh, you're stretching me. Okay, I'm stretching. Get up when you need me to shut up. Okay. So my message really is we need to be very cognizant of where we come from. I stole that from the Gary Weaver and Associates. I'm not the author of that slide. I borrowed it for my presentations. Because in fact, this is what happens. We have two icebergs colliding. Many times when we try to address the needs of Hispanic families. Is where are they coming from? What are the adaptations that we need to make in our care and in the delivery of our programs? From instead of 10 to 11, maybe we want to say 9:30 to 11:30, and we know that we're going to get to know each other from 9:30 to 10, then we start on time, we finish on time, but we have time to hang out for a little bit so we can create that personal relationship. Who delivers a program? We like to see people cinnamon color like me, with an accent like me, people that understand who I am, so those programs get delivered in a very competent, culturally proficient, and linguistically competent manner. Therefore, a little bird told me that WellMed has committed, right? To translate Stress Busters to Spanish. Okay? Because WellMed realizes that the program is wonderful, but a big change needs to happen. So we're going to deliver that program, translate it, adapt it, so that people can benefit from the tremendous research that came out of the program, and WellMed has committed to do that. So Ron, my time is up, or you were just bluffing?
No, you can take a couple questions if you like.
Oh, if I like. Are there any questions in the audience? Yes?
My dad is a caregiver of my mom, and he refuses respite care because he feels as a husband, that's his job, or that's his obligation. How do we convince him that he does need respite care? And he does need it, we can see.
I love you because he opened the can of worms, so let me show you how you're going to do that. I said I can cut here, but since he opened the can of worms, I can use the time. Respite is a bad word. So what you're going to do, why? Because it's my duty and my responsibility, and I'm going to do it, and no one can do it better than I can. I'm not going to pass the honor of fulfilling my duty to an agency or to a stranger. So you're going to rephrase this, and you're going to tell them, just like an airplane will never take off without you receiving a briefing about your oxygen first before you help somebody, and that it works wonders, okay? So respite, el relevo, is a responsibility. Respite must be one of your duties. It's not an option. And it's that time that you have to take for yourself to breathe before you return. Okay, so when you reframe it as a family responsibility and as a part of your duties, you may be able to convince him to do that. Any other questions? No questions? Okay. It's a pleasure having been here with you today. Thank you very much for coming.